Our word of hope today is from Matthew 21, verses 12 through 14. And Jesus entered the temple and drove out all who sold and bought in the temple. And he overturned the tables of the money changers and the seats of those who sold pigeons. He said to them, "It is written, my house shall be called a house of prayer, but you have made it a den of robbers." And the blind and the lame came to him in the temple, and he healed them all. On the day following Jesus' triumphal entry into Jerusalem, Mark's gospel tells us that Jesus came back into Jerusalem from a stay at Bethany the night before. He made his way then to the temple. Now, the courts of which at that time would be teeming with people from all places far and near. The time was the time of Passover, and Jewish law required every family to make pilgrimage to the temple to make sacrifice to God. When Jesus came and entered into this most sacred side of the Hebrew faith, what he saw was not a holy place of worship to the one true God, but a bustling market of wares. You see, this was a place that was distinguished above all places and locations on the earth. For God himself had said that he would occupy that place. It was a place that was to bear the name of God. This was holy ground. This was sacred space. And now the court of the Gentiles was being used as a marketplace. The law required every male worshiper over the age of 21 to give a half a shekel of money. Many would come from foreign lands, so their coins would have to be exchanged for sacred temple currency. The money changers always seemed to come out extraordinarily good on that exchange. Also, animals were kept in the courtyard for sacrifice. You wouldn't want to bring your own animal hundreds of miles only to have it rejected by the priesthood. So expensive, pre-approved sacrificial animals were available at a premium cost. The foot traffic of stable workers, the stench and sounds of animals, the shouts of money changers, the din of thousands standing in line made this sacred space practically a religious circus. Jesus' reaction was one of righteous indignation. He was horrified that such a place as his Father's house was treated with such disrespect. It was sinful, slanderous, and shameful. His love for God and his temple welled up within him, and he began to physically remove this blight from the house of God. Can you see Jesus taking men by the nape of the neck and throwing them out, chasing out animals, turning over tables of money as profiteers scrounged on the floor for their coins? Although I believe that we might be able to make a mild application to our worship facilities and where we meet, that this is no place for such a religious circus to take place, the real and most exact application is our own individual lives. For God for no more abides in buildings made of hands, but in hearts of flesh. The Apostle Paul wrote in 1 Corinthians 6:19 and 20, "What? Do you not know that your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit within you, whom you have from God, and you are not your own? For you were bought with a price. So glorify God in your body." The question is, what does the temple of our hearts look like? If Jesus were to walk through the courtyard of our worship, would he want to turn over a few tables? Listen, when we give place to sin in our lives, it is a defilement of God's residence, like what Jesus saw in the temple that day. When greed and lust, bitterness and pride gain a foothold in our hearts, it is not viewed as a small thing in the eyes of God, but an infringement into a sacred space. It is a prime candidate for God to come in and turn over the tables and chase out the sin in our lives. A time for Jesus to chasten and scourge our hearts. The book of Hebrews tells us in Hebrews 12:16, "For the Lord disciplines the one he loves and chastens every son whom he receives." That chastening is a word of hope for our lives.